Endless Hustle presented by Four Laps. If you're looking for workout gear that lets you train anywhere, no matter the season, no matter the setting, Four Laps has your back. This brand is always innovating with styles that keep you cool, let you breathe, and stretch so you can really move. The latest collection features some pretty sharp styles that blend recyclable materials with technology that moves with you. Plus, you can get 20% off your first purchase with code BroBible20. Head over to fourlaps.com now. All right, we've got a great day on the Endless Hustle as I've got Nick Lachey joining me, although I was busting his chops already. I'm like, speaking of alter ego, you're locking in under your alter ego, your wife, the real ego.
Yeah, right, exactly. I should be so lucky to. No, I would change my my Zoom screen name if I knew how, but I'm that pathetic with technology, so I'll just ride with Vanessa's name for now.
Well, the key is as long as you know how to judge musical talent, which you're doing on this new Fox show, that's what matters.
Well, I think that's how I got asked to be a part of it. They kind of said internally, we need one idiot who knows nothing about technology to just bring the layman's point of view. Let's get Nick Lachey. He's perfect. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Contact Nick's agent. He's the guy.
But that honestly, that's one of the things I think that's coolest about this show is I really don't know anything about technology, and I knew very little about computer generated avatars or any of that kind of stuff before this experience. But what I do feel like I know is music, and what I saw and heard on this show was incredible to see. To see a world you're not that familiar with, and all this technology, this cutting edge technology, to see that kind of converge with really, really incredibly talented artists and do it in such a powerful way was awesome, to be a part of. So
we're the same age, and I literally remember when you started in the age of what I consider the great age of boy bands. And to think about how far music has come technologically is crazy. As a musician yourself, when you see how this whole thing has evolved, what are your thoughts?
I think we'll continue to see the edge of the envelope be pushed and progress made. And some people, harken back to, I remember when, we used to record on 2-inch tape and reel to reel and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's always an element of, I don't know, I don't want to say sadness of like seeing the old kind of way of doing things go away. But with every opportunity and every technological advance that happens, there is more opportunity. And we've seen, computers now take over as the way everyone was recording on some kind of software on the computer as opposed to on the old tape decks. And so it has changed, but in a lot of ways it's I think it's opened up the doors to a lot more inclusion musically. Like people can record in their homes now, and we see Billie Eilish and Phineas recording in their in their bedrooms in their house in LA or wherever it is. I mean, you used to have to go to the Hit Factory and sit in the studio, and so I think it's opened it up to be a lot more accessible to people, which in turn has allowed more talent to be discovered, if you will.
I've known Jeff Timmons forever, and obviously your bandmate Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees. And I remember talking to Jeff a couple years ago, and I was like, can you still believe you guys are doing this? Like all these years later, it always brings me back to Almost Famous when Jimmy Fallon's character who plays Stillwater's manager is like, you think Mick Jagger is going to be dancing into his 60s? And everyone obviously laughs, and here Mick Jagger's still doing his 70s. If you were to go back and tell that Nick Lachey, that young Nick Lachey, boy bander Nick Lachey, you'd still be doing this, you think you would believe it?
Back in those days, I wouldn't have believed it, honestly. And I think that was kind of the pressure of that moment of like, oh, we gotta take this for all it's worth because we're never going to get another shot at it. And so, I think that we always put a lot of pressure on ourselves to hit it while the iron was hot because we didn't know if we would have the opportunity to do it and for how much longer. But it's a credit to our fans, man, honestly, and to all the groups that are out there still doing what they love to do and are able to and tour. It's a credit to all of our loyal fan bases who still want to come out and listen to us do what we do and sing. So, but to answer your question, I wouldn't have believed it back in those days, but I'm so grateful and appreciative for the fact that we do get to do this still.
When you're a kid and that happens, because that era was just something different between you, Backstreet, and Sync. There was something so magical about what was happening at that moment. And that was pre-social media, pre-accessibility, the way we see it now. Yeah. As a kid experiencing it, what was it like?
It was surreal. I mean, it was, always use this metaphor of a roller coaster ride, but that's really what it felt like. I mean, you were just holding on for dear life and didn't always know what was around the next turn, but you were excited to find out. And it was a whirlwind, man. And I think looking back on it now, we can appreciate it as we sit around like the four of us and just reminisce and tell stories about all the times we had together. I think we enjoy it more now than we did then, just because of the pressure we put on ourselves in the moment. Yeah, I mean, we feel really honored. We never set out to be a boy band. We never formed ourselves in the image of New Kids or anything like that. We wanted to be a vocal, harmony group, kind of like Boys to Men, and we got swept up in the boy band thing. But looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything. And I'm so appreciative for the fact that we were a part of that magical kind of era of music, as you alluded to.
What was the moment you knew it was happening? I mean, the moment that it all clicked and you kind of looked around and you were like, this is happening. We're discovering the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we had our first kind of top 10 single, when Because of You hit, and then you kind of start to feel the groundswell under you. You start to feel the momentum and the videos on TRL, and just things started to kind of fall into place. But you still always know in the back of your mind, or think in the back of your mind, hey, you know what, this could be over, tomorrow. There's another group coming up that wants to take your spot, and music could change. And so you never look too far ahead. I mean, you always, were hustling for the moment, because you never knew if it was going to end. But I think that was the first time we kind of felt like, okay, now people kind of know who we are. We've arrived a little bit. So that was a good moment. Our first top 10.
You've done such a great job of reinventing yourself. You've hosted various shows, obviously now a judge on a musical competition show. As you had to transition out of a primarily music-driven career into now a multifaceted career, what was the thought process behind that? How were you beginning to make decisions to say, there's other things that I need to do in order to really keep this thing going?
I'll be honest with you. I wish I could take credit for anything that I've ever done. But honestly, I got to be a part of reality TV because I was trying to promote a solo record that I was doing. And in doing so, I think it allowed people to get to know who I was, not just a member of a group, but who I was as a person. And then being on reality TV kind of transitions itself into hosting, because you're basically being yourself and doing that on TV. And so everything's just kind of one opportunity's led to another. I've tried to, engage myself with every opportunity and give it my all, and hope it leads to something else. But there was no master plan in my head. But this is a special project, Alter Ego, because as you said, I've hosted stuff before, but I've never been a part of a judging panel before. I've never been on that side of the table, so to speak. So I really enjoyed this experience because it is a different perspective when you're hosting a show versus when you're sitting out in front and judging a show.
I mean, you're a notoriously nice guy, and I think to myself, there's always different types of judges. You have the Simon Cowells of the world who are going to like literally tear your head off. Then you have the Heidi Klums who are going to tell you you're the best, even if you suck. What type of judge is Nick Lachey?
Well, I like to think, first of all, I'm objective. But I'm not mean-spirited by nature. I can never play that role on TV and be able to sleep at night. Because at the end of the day, these are people who have dreams and they're talented and they deserve the opportunity to get your attention and to get your objective point of view. So I've never been afraid, I don't think, of giving some criticism, constructively, because I think that's how you get better. But to do it in a mean-spirited way is just, I've always believed that was just for the sake of, of ratings, and it doesn't serve anybody really. So I've always tried to give my constructive criticism, but do it in a way that is uplifting and positive. And I tried to do that on the show as well. I mean, there were times when maybe I said something that a contestant didn't necessarily want to hear, but I felt like they needed to hear it, and it might improve their opportunity for a better performance next time. So that's the way I approached, judging on this show.
As someone who obviously had to experience fame at such a young age and did a really great job of actually navigating it, when you see some of these singers, and obviously some of them are going to go on to either win or experience some level of fame, what is the advice that you would give, even though it's a different era, in really navigating fame as you succeed in the music world?
I think you just got to remember who that person was when you started out. You know what I mean? Two things. I'll say this. You have to be prepared to work harder than you've ever worked at anything, because even when you feel like you've been discovered, and like when you get signed to a label back in the day, oh, we've made it. Not even close. I mean, you're forgotten like that unless you're willing to work hard and put in the time. So be willing to work hard, but also don't let, if you're lucky enough to have success, don't drink your own Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? Don't buy into that. Remember who you were at the beginning. Remember the reasons you wanted
to get in this business to begin with, and hold on to that. Let that be your Bible, so to speak. Always fall back on that, and know that that's how you stay grounded. That's how you stay level-headed, and that's how you stay motivated to work.
I was watching a Manny Pacquiao fight and cruising Twitter, and all of a sudden Nick Lachey's tweet comes up on my Twitter feed, crushing Pacquiao in the fight. But you actually mentioned MMA, and I'm a huge UFC fan. So are you a UFC fan? I was curious.
I'm a casual fight fan. I don't follow the UFC with any degree of like crazy passion, and but I like watching the fights, whether it's boxing or MMA. So yeah, I'm a casual. I would never pretend to be an expert on any of it, but I just like casually watching for sure.
As someone who's a sports fanatic, what type of respect do you have for those MMA guys? Because I've gotten to interview some of them, and I'm just like, wow, you guys are like the best athletes on the planet.
You know what? You mentioned the word respect, and what strikes me most about MMA is the level of respect that they have for one another. It could be, all kinds of trash talk and, throwing jabs at the weigh-in, but when the fight's done and they both laid it all out, on the line, and they're bloodied up in the octagon and the whole thing, win or lose. I mean, somebody could lose a tough decision or get embarrassed with a knockout or what have you, but there's a level of respect when it's done. There's an embrace usually. It's like, they know, they identify with what each other are going through. It's a brutal sport and it's a brutal world. And there's, I think they appreciate one another, win or lose, because they know what the others is dealing with, and how difficult it is. So it's that respect that I think is most cool about MMA.
Does that translate to the music world? Is it similar in the music world, or is it the complete opposite where you see ruthlessness and competition?
No, I think there is a level of respect. We were always pitted against NSYNC and against Backstreet Boys, and it must be this, this huge rivalry, and they hate each other. And we always kind of laughed at that at the time. And now you're seeing these great collaborative kind of opportunities between the groups. I was just at the VMAs with AJ and Lance, and presenting an award and announcing the Total Relief Live benefit concert I'm putting together. So it's cool to see kind of those old storylines fade away, and the opportunity for all of us because we're all cool with each other. We all, much in the same way, we understand what each other have gone through, and the sacrifices that have been made, and the struggles that we've all had, kind of in our respective groups. So I think there's a mutual appreciation and respect that happens there as well.
How different is it? And I saw you at the VMAs. How different is it when you're with those guys and now you guys have families and you're adult men, looking back to what you were before? What's the discourse like, reminiscing about that?
By the way, that's the only time you'll hear MMA and boy bands ever compared in the same in the same way. Life's changed for all of us. The majority of us have kids. We're married or in relationships, and so there's a perspective there that comes, later in life. And I think it's true for most, if not all of us. And it's just, there's no time for the whatever BS. There's no time for it. We all just enjoy hanging together. And, that VMA experience was a blast to hang with those guys and walk the carpet with them, and hang out before and after the show. And, I've known them all in different ways over the years, and some better than others, but it's, whenever we're together in whatever capacity, it's always cool. It's always fun to tell the stories and shoot the shit, so to speak. And, it's just, it's a camaraderie. It really is. It's brotherhood.
I was watching parts of the VMAs, and and I do this for a living, and I obviously know the names of a lot of the artists, and certain ones have now gone mainstream, like Lil Nas X and obviously Billie Eilish, but there were certain people coming out and I'm like, who the fuck are these people? And did you have the same experience? Are you sitting back and you're like, holy shit, I'm old. What has happened?
I never felt older. There's 2 times in recent memory I felt older than I ever have. One, sitting next to Grimes on our judging panel for Alter Ego, because she is just on a whole nother wavelength in terms of like how she relates to the world and how she relates to music. And I was like, man, I am really old. I'm like the old fuddy-duddy old school guy. And then at the VMAs, I sat there and I didn't know half the people there. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? I'm so out of touch. What's happening? I was joking with Dave Grohl backstage. He was the same. He's like, I don't know what's going on here. It's just, it makes you feel old, but at the same time, there's a respect. It's a chance to be introduced to some new upcoming talent, and you see the way that things are evolving and changing, and they always will. And you're just happy to still be invited and be a part of it, I guess.
You'd mentioned TRL, and I'm literally sitting here and I'm like, man, these youngins, they don't remember how cool TRL was. That was what was, I've talked to Carson about this, but because obviously he was like an icon for that. But the first time you did TRL, what was that experience like?
It was like being invited to the cool kids table. You know what I mean? Like you just wanted to be a part of it. I mean, it became the benchmark for what was popular and what was working and what was successful in music. To see hip hop artists along with rock artists, along with A-list movie stars, along with pop artists. I mean, it was the place to be, the place to promote, the place to perform. And so we were lucky enough to be a part of that. And it was must-see TV for that generation. Come home from school and flip on TRL. And obviously that's changed, and now everything's online, and they, kids, they find their content in other ways. But that'll always be a special kind of chapter in all of our lives who are a part of it.
So one of the main reasons, Nick, that I started this show was to talk to successful people about the habits that they incorporate in order to achieve their success. So my question to you is, what are the habits and the mentality that you incorporate in your own life that allow you to continue to elevate?
Great question. I think I mentioned it earlier, but again, I think you have to be a hard worker. And we always said this about 90 Degrees. We were all from Ohio. We all had that kind of Midwestern, put your head down and just go for it mentality. And there were a lot of other talented singers out there, probably more talented than us, but we just weren't going to allow ourselves to be outworked. That was always our mentality. Say, we may not win, we may not get what we want to be, but we're not going to look back and say it's because we didn't try hard enough. We didn't work hard enough. So I think that's always a good path to a good outcome is putting in the time, putting in the work, and it's your attitude. You have to, I tell this to my oldest son all the time. I say, hey, you know what, your attitude is latitude. Like you have to give yourself the right position to be successful. And if you go in with a negative attitude, it's never going to happen. So, think positively, put things good out into the universe. And 9 times out of 10, if you're willing to put in the work, those things will come to fruition, and try to remind myself of that for the last 25 years, I guess now.
I know you're a monster sports fan, and you've gotten to do so many cool things because of the celebrity status that you've been afforded. But what's been the number one? What was the coolest sports event or just thing you were able to do that you're just like, this can't be topped?
Yeah, you're right. I've been so lucky to have been a part of so many cool things and Super Bowls, and the first Super Bowl after 9/11 when U2 performed at halftime, and that was, they sang Beautiful Day, and the names of everyone who had lost their lives in 9/11 were scrolling across the screen. That was like one of those impactful moments. You're like, wow, I'm here for this. Personally, one of my proudest moments, I sang at the Yankees Marlins World Series. I sang the national anthem solo by myself. I was like, that's a pretty cool thing, that I got to do that and kind of check that off the old resume box. But if I'm smart enough, man, well, Kentucky Derbies. I mean, I'm good friends with Jimmy Johnson, so I've seen multiple NASCAR championships. I've been very, very lucky that the worlds of entertainment and sports often, collide, and I got to kind of stand on the sidelines and be a part of some of that.
I've had Jimmy on the show. I was totally geeking out over him because, again, anytime you're part of the 7 Ring Club, whatever sport, you're a GOAT. I'm in.
Yeah, he's a monster, and for every bit of, obviously he's a phenomenal race car driver, but he's an even better man, a better father, a better husband. I'm just happy to know him as a human being, as much as I am as a driver. So yeah, good stuff with Jimmy. He's class.
Nick, this has been a blast. Congratulations. The brand new show is Alter Ego on Fox. Thanks for a fun chat, man.
Thank you so much. Be good.
See you, brother.
All right, man. Thanks.